She's not hanging out on the attendee side, so she might be a couple minutes late.
And just a heads up, I'll be hopping off at 3:45, 3:50, somewhere in there to get ready for LAFCO meeting at 4.
Mm-hmm.
And Joelle, did you hear anything from Nick and anybody at TMD today? I know they were included on the invite, right?
Let me
Hello.
Yeah, so Sarah sent out the agenda. Let me check her. And I probably forgot to include Nick in my earlier
Okay, great.
communication.
Okay, right. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Hello.
There we go.
Hello?
Hello. So Joelle, no, they
I
did
do
not get
know what's
included.
happening with my
Okay.
audio.
Can you hear us?
I bet you can hear me now.
Yeah.
I'm so sorry. Please forgive me for being a little bit tardy here.
That's okay. You can hear us?
I can hear you just fine.
Excellent.
Madam Chair, I also will be dropping off at 4 o'clock for the other meeting that's been scheduled.
Okay. So why don't we go ahead and call to order our Public Outreach Committee meeting. So I'm sitting here dramatically trying to get my agenda up. Forgive me for this, you guys. I'm so sorry. My computer has been a little bit wonky lately, and I'm having things fall off my calendar, and this was one that did.
Ooh.
So
Oh.
I'm so sorry. So
Joelle, can you let Athena in, please?
Okay.
Thanks.
And is it possible for someone to share the agenda with me?
The first two items are call to order, roll call, and then comments from the public.
Thank you so much. Okay, so I think I have called us to order. And for the June 28th, 2021 Public Outreach Committee meeting. So if we could please have the roll called.
Yes, Committee Member Malik,
Here.
Committee Member Anderson,
Here.
and Chair Adams.
Here.
All committee members are present.
Thank you. And next we will do public comment. Is there any member of the public that would like to make comments on anything that is not on today's agenda?
Do not
Chair Adams, we do not have any members of the public on our attendee side.
Okay. Is there?
Your next item is adoption of the May 7th committee meeting minutes.
Thank you very much. Has anyone had an opportunity to review the meeting, the minutes of the May meeting?
Yes, and you did a nice job with your corrections.
Excellent. Are there any other corrections to the minutes for that meeting? Or comments? Let's take a motion to approve the minutes then.
I move approval of the minutes as the revised.
Thank you. And is there a second?
I have not attended that meeting, so I don't know if I should.
You do not need to have attended the meeting to approve the minutes.
Okay, second then.
Thank you very much. So let's take a roll call vote on the minutes, please.
Committee Member Anderson,
Yes.
Committee Member Malik,
Yes.
and Chair Adams.
Yes,
The motion passes unanimously.
thank you. And then our next item on the agenda will be,
The discussion of public outreach design services for the Santa Margarita Aqua Storage and Recovery Site.
thank you. And I think I will look to staff for a presentation on this.
Yes, so we have with us today Maureen Hamilton from our Water Resources Division. And this is attachment 2A is the response to an RFP from ECI, which is a firm that will be doing landscape and outreach services. Maureen, take it away.
Sure, thank you. So we knew that the Santa Margarita facility was going to need landscaping when we finished it. We had plans drafted way back in maybe 2013, 2015. But when the new building was required, that completely changed the landscaping. So to decouple, I think you can get landscaping done cheaper when it's not under the construction contractor because he outsources it anyways and just adds 10% on top. So I went ahead and wrote an RFP for design services for that landscaping. But, and I don't know if it's possible for me to share my screen. I apologize. I didn't get a presentation together. It's been a busy couple weeks with, the location is on General Jim Moore Boulevard at the intersection of Coe and Eucalyptus. Coe is a throughway that basically connects General Jim Moore to the shopping area in Sand City and also to Highway 1. Eucalyptus is a dead-end street. There are K-rails at the entrance. So our Santa Margarita property is very visible. It's right on the General Jim Moore frontage, and we get a lot of pedestrian traffic. We also get a lot of biking traffic, and we get commensurately, both for, as I'm managing the Pure Water Monterey project there and the Santa Margarita projects there, we get a lot of questions about what these facilities are. So over time, I've been thinking, we've got our facility, and in the long term for Pure Water Monterey, when the Ford Tag Trail goes through, there's some opportunities there. But with our property having such a public visibility, it seemed like a good place to do some outreach and education about what the district does. Being an engineer, that side of my brain is just not firing and kind of numb. So along with these landscape design services, I wanted a firm that could also, who maybe knew some artist people and some folks who'd done an educational outreach installation. Through various trips I've taken over the years, there are some really great installations that educate people on the local area. And given that folks don't know if ASR is desal or Pure Water Monterey or the start of a housing community, it seemed to me like it would be a nice place to do some type of installation on ASR and the Carmel River. So we wanted to bring that to the public outreach committee, since this is outreach. Where we are in the RFP process is we got one highly qualified firm proposing on both. We reviewed the proposal, the staff reviewed the proposal and checked the references, several local references including Hartnell Gulch and the very pretty park out in Pacific Grove with the purple flowers. The name is escaping me. So they've done a lot of local work and are just very highly recommended. My plan is to meet with them. The city of Seaside, we've been heavily involved with their planners, but they've had a huge turnover. So I'll see if I can get one of their planners into the meeting, and also meet with our PR firm and Water Demand to talk with them about possible bases of design for an outreach installation. And the work will be to provide 3 potential designs. And then we'll review those designs with the city, with the public outreach, hone them in, and come up with 3 final design. The long-term goal being to look for some type of grant funding that would fund an outreach installation in front of our property. Are there any questions?
Are there any members who have questions of Maureen at this point?
I'd just say that I was impressed with the thoroughness of the this proposal, this initial proposal. Covered a lot of bases.
Yeah, we have done a only one, I think, public outreach storyboard at the Schulte Road location of the Songbird Sanctuary, which is managed by Big Sur Land Trust. So we've got a big big sign there that talks about the Carmel River and steelhead rescues and things like that. So I suspect we'll want to tie it to the river, but also talk about water supply
Mhm.
there in front of ASR.
I think.
I like the idea of the design to just show what it's all about. I think that's always a helpful kind of display. I think that sounds good. And were you pleased when you got the RFPs back? Were you pleased, or the proposals rather, were you pleased with the pricing that you received, Maureen?
Absolutely. John Lear and I talked about this in depth. Again, this not being either of our wheelhouse, and it's spot on with what we had thought. It's like, okay, we can do the design for this, and we think we can do the construction for that. Spot on with the design
So
cost.
what is it that you need from us at this point now?
Any insight or any thoughts you have on the type of outreach? The city's going to be very concerned that it be safe. This is an operating facility, so I don't want people hanging out reading detailed signs, because we have trucks full of chemical driving past them. The city will have their viewpoint. The Monterey Peninsula Water Management District for public outreach, I want to make sure I get your viewpoints
Right.
captured as we kick off this work.
Yeah, and we also just brought it to you because just wanted to make you aware
That's what we do.
process is taking place.
Yeah. Amy, do you have any thoughts or comments about this as a
Well,
committee member?
my experience with talking to people about the water district is nobody knows anything, and it's not the district's fault. They don't read the papers.
They don't get the
They don't.
papers.
They don't get the papers, and they don't search out the information. So I get asked the most simple questions. Well, when are we going to talk about Measure J again? Or where is this water coming from? And one person asked me if the desal was set up to happen. I mean, they just don't keep track.
Right.
So I think having an opportunity, I mean, it's going to see a particular part of the population that lives over there. And, maybe we'll do one somewhere else too. I don't know where that would be, but I'm just frustrated with the lack of engagement of the public.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I have a question about the proposal. I see that the cover letter that came from David Stolt shows cost estimate of $10,569, but there is absolutely no mention in their proposal of how much their fees are.
Oh, I apologize. We have them deliver the cost sheet separately. So we get ideally with the services proposal, you read the services and what they're proposing, and you choose who your top candidates are, and then you open the price proposals and reevaluate the proposals in light of the pricing. And I may have only sent over the content proposal as an exhibit.
So you have who did the selection then and came up with the recommendation to select this group?
Myself and Stephanie Kister.
Okay.
It was the only
Well,
proposal you got, wasn't it?
Yes, but if they hadn't have met their proposal kind of wowed me. Again, it's
Yeah.
not my wheelhouse.
Yes, I know Una. She's a very qualified landscape architect, and I think we'll be good with this team.
That's great to hear.
Yeah.
So I
That's the, go ahead.
was going to say, so with ACR as the kickoff topic, since that's where you're going to be, physical location, you do have an opportunity for, highlighting the district, developing that and talking about its impact on the river. So you can kind of stretch out water source and so forth from, creatively, there's a number of things you can cover.
What do you think about one of the thoughts I had, just, going back to school fundraising and drought? One of the thoughts I had, because we don't want to slow traffic down and I don't want pedestrians necessarily hanging out in front of the facility, about maybe a rain to date, number of gallons injected or saved by ASR to date.
Mhm.
It takes a little work on staff time to keep those numbers updated. But that, ASR, I'm excited about ASR and would love to brag about it there.
Yeah.
I think, do you not think that perhaps if we do that, which I think people always look to that sort of thing, people love measurements, there has to be something that we can put up that would explain what it is.
I think,
Because
yeah,
people don't understand, there's a handful of us who are interested in ASR, but I think the general public wouldn't know what that means. And
Right.
I'm wondering if that would be something that the landscape architecture firm would be able to do, or would we be responsible for coming up with the concepts? Stephanie?
yeah. So I agree. Una's a really good architect, so I'm sure she'd have some thoughts about some kind of a panel. I would envision a panel that has some information about the ASR project and what it does, just very short, sweet, beautiful looking. And then maybe we include a QR code on it that would take people to the information on our website. And one of our discussion items today is to talk about updating our website. So maybe we can have a page that has this information on it that's prominent, and then we could direct people to that page as part of this display.
I think that sounds like a really good idea. So where would you envision putting up the QR code, et cetera? How would you envision this looking?
Well, if the city of Seaside would allow it, and I don't know, yeah, we'll have to, like you said, we've got huge turnover going on at the city of Seaside right now.
Including the city manager.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So it would be to do it somewhere along the sidewalk area in the right of way, I would think. Outside the facility, but obviously not where the driveways are or anything. But I think that we should approach the city about trying to partner on something like that.
Would it be something or a size that people would be able to see from their cars? Because I think that's really what we're talking about, as far as being able to, reach the general public. I would expect that 10 times many people to drive by.
Yeah, I think it's going to be primarily pedestrian traffic. The gate does have our logo and does have the name of the facility on it. And that's about all I would expect a driver to pick up on. We don't want to distract drivers. But I'm gearing it primarily towards pedestrian traffic.
And there's a lot of pedestrian traffic in that area.
Yeah,
Okay.
and Stephanie, I was just going through my my book. I can't remember where it was, but I think you were there at it might have been Santa Clara Valley or somebody, but it's they had 3 signs about purifying stormwater, bioswales, and planting local.
Yeah, that's all Santa Clara County's office area where they have the rain gardens and whatnot.
Yeah. And the graphics are kind of nice, so maybe do something like that.
Yeah, I think we
especially
could. I'm sorry.
No, I was just gonna say, depending on what kind of landscaping too, we could riff off of both the water supply aspect and then the local planting aspect, drought resistant plants and so forth. But let's wait to see what ECI has, and we'll try.
Yeah,
to
and
provide
I think we will definitely bring whatever our concepts are back to the committee for review. So you will have input on that before we actually do anything with signs.
And what kind of timeline are we talking about? By when would you want to have this installed?
Well, the board will approve in July. I want to get the landscape in this winter. The outreach installation would really be when funding's available. So
Okay.
there's nothing driving this besides the district.
Okay, great. So, Dave, do you have any thought of when the funding might be available for this? Just so we have an idea of how quickly we have to move or not.
No, and we have budget. We could do it ourselves, but I think we should look at potential grant
Grant
funding.
opportunities.
Yeah.
Good, good. Good. Well, I think we've come to some good conclusions. If you send around the address of the place in Santa Clara that you liked, if any of us are driving up in that area, we could stop by to take a peek at it and see what that looks like. Or perhaps there's even a picture that we could look at. I think that would be helpful.
Yeah. I have
Something that
pictures.
you like.
So.
Yeah,
We'll follow it up with an email to you.
I think that'd be terrific.
Great.
Good. Well, do you feel like you've received what you needed or expected from us?
Yep.
Okay. You as
Stay
well,
tuned.
Maureen, then?
Absolutely. I'm really excited about this work.
Good. I'm glad you are. I think it's, even though it's out of your wheelhouse, as you say, it's still kind of fun to think of how you can spread the message about what it is that you do. And, the creative part might be out of your wheelhouse, but certainly the information is right there where you are driving that wheel. So I think together we'll be able to come up with something good. So great. Okay, well, with that, I think we can consider this information that has been brought forward and received. I don't think we need to have any kind of a vote or anything like that on this.
Thank you, Maureen.
Thank you all.
Good. Okay. And so now the next thing that we need to do is take a look at the public outreach proposal from the marketing department creative for company for services for fiscal year 21-22 and provide direction to staff and the outreach consultant for that.
Yeah.
So,
So, I'm sorry.
That's all right.
Just
ahead.
briefly, the board did receive this at the June board meeting as part of our budget discussion.
Okay.
But we did want to bring it back because it hadn't come through this committee, even though we did have discussions about this at our May meeting. And so just wanted to have this committee receive the report or receive the proposal from TMD, and then talk a little bit about timing for when you might want to see. There was the survey, the media event that were included in this discussion. The media event is actually an add-on, not included in the retainer, but would be an extra expense. We have a newsletter that we'd like to get out this summer, and I would like very much to get feedback from this committee as to what topics they'd like to see in it, so we can start assigning that to staff so they can write their parts of it, and then we can get TMD to help pull it all together. And the other thing to discuss today would be this concept of redoing the website, and that is something we did put funding in the budget for. So kind of just do a little bit of discussion about it. Athena Morris is from TMD, and so she's listening to the discussion today. And but I'd just like to open it up kind of to the committee and get some feedback from you on those different topics.
Yeah, and let's stay on the newsletter concept, because I think what we did talk about was summer and winter, twice a year, including direct mail. But one of the topics, of course, Measure J, we're not going to see any progress from LAFCO. Hopefully tonight they close out the need for any third-party studies or additional consultants or any of that. but they won't come back around to address the issue until the August meeting. So I was expecting that sometime in July, we would do an update to the board, likely in closed session, as to where we stand. But I'm not sure that we're going to be in a position to actually say anything until after LAFCO acts.
Yeah.
So did we want to hold a newsletter until after the August LAFCO meeting, or what?
Amy? And you're muted. Thank you.
Could we do some just telling the public about what's happening? Because that's another one of those questions. What
Right.
about Measure J? Can we do a kind of a thin summary of the steps so people know actually we are involved in this, just so they know that something's happening, and we could get more to you in the winter newsletter or something.
I hear what you're saying, and I agree. I think as well, if we could put something in about here's what to watch out for, you know, so people know, and here's where to go to look for it. So people would know, you know, like check the LAFCO website if you want to find out what happened at the meeting. If they aren't getting their information from either the printed news or the television media or other media. I
Yeah.
think that would be something that would be helpful to people in a newsletter. I think that would be good. You know, I don't know what's going to happen at this meeting. I'm kind of nervous about it, quite frankly, the LAFCO meeting. It does not augur well as I look at the members who are on that committee.
Yeah.
Very few of whom, if any, have any impact on their lives being made from the decision that they're going to be making. And that
Right.
to me just seems so unfair,
Yeah,
just so unfair. It has no impact on them whatsoever, but they're making a decision that will impact all of us. I find that difficult to contain my annoyance. But be that as it may, I think that would be, if we went ahead and printed this, because it would probably be going out very soon, and we'll at least know the outcome of tonight's meeting. It would be, you know, like the little graphic that here's the circle, and if this happens, then we go here, and if
Yeah.
this happens, then we go here. So people can see in a very simple way what the various next steps are going to be based on what the outcome of tonight's meeting is.
and
So
just
that's-
understand that we're actually doing something's actually happening.
Yeah. I think that could be very good. So I don't think we should wait until the August meeting, quite truthfully. I think if it's possible for us to get something out in July, I think that would serve us well. Because a lot of things are going to start happening, and then in the fall, and God only knows, I mean, all we talk about at the board now is just the drought. And, you know, how are we going to handle that? The drought. And I'm sitting in an area that hasn't seen sun even today, again, all
know.
nice and moist and gooey soil because of the fog. But most other people are clearly really
Yeah.
worried. All in every water venue, you know, the dams and every place else, people are so concerned about it. So if we even had something about where we stand with the drought, and maybe something on seawater
Yep.
intrusion. So
That's
people
why
get
I think you're right. That's why July is a pretty good time.
Mhm.
And then it allows us to do the winter, summer.
Yeah.
Summer.
Good point. Really
Yeah.
good point.
Okay.
Yeah.
I have
Amy?
one more comment. Right at the beginning of the proposal on page 51, an overview, it says promote Measure J when it's discussing the newsletter. And I don't feel that's the right word. Promote. It seems like it's taking a kind of a side instead of to just demystify Measure J or the
Right.
steps in Measure J. I mean, that's a fine point, but promote, you know, you're talking to everybody out there, so you gotta,
Right.
I agree. Yeah, I think that's a really good idea. And I like the term demystify. And I think as well, we ought to be asking ourselves if, we're using the term Measure J because that's what people voted for, but it's not what it's really called anymore. So,
Right. Yeah,
I
we've
think-
had that issue. I mean, Rule 19B doesn't sound very sexy. So,
Hmm. Unless we had, Measure J with a little scratch through it and 19, whatever the hell it is, that's the new word.
And for those of us who can't remember those kind of numbers.
Exactly.
just
I
like,
got J down just fine.
I'm terrible.
okay,
But
so
yeah,
we will, on the newsletter then, Stephanie, let's generate some topics and assign out to different staff members to write up a couple of short articles like we've done in
Yeah.
the past.
Well, I was going to say, based on this discussion, what I'm looking at is, like you said, this Measure J, where we are, what we're doing, where we're going.
Yep. And then
An
drought.
update on drought, and then mentioned seawater intrusion. I think actually that's a perfectly fine thing to touch on, just a small something. Steelhead rescues are going on, and then probably the rebates.
Sure.
Yeah, keep in mind, we don't have seawater intrusion in our service area.
But everybody thinks we do.
I know,
Yeah.
and the report on the Fort Ord well turned out that it was only intruded because of a break, a fissure, not actual, it's not pulling seawater
Yeah.
in.
That was interesting. Yeah.
Okay. Back to you, Stephanie. Sorry to interject there, but I think it's good to know that we're targeting July then.
Yeah, and actually, so given that information, I think that's really our number one priority right now. Other than our normal branding ads, we've got a team from TMD out in the field this week. Is that right, Athena, for doing steelhead rescues?
Yes, so it'll be myself and our photographer, Mark. We're gonna be out there Wednesday, getting our boots in the water.
I was going to
First
say,
hand
they have to put
experience.
waders on. So.
Yeah, I mean, they don't have any my size, but I'll figure it out. It's okay.
That sounds
So,
great. Good.
yeah, so anyway, so that's kind of what we're working on right now. I also have TMD working on our hospitality cards that we need to reprint, the cards that say water served only on request.
Mhm.
And then for the hotel rooms, the linen and towel reuse stuff. So that's kind of our priority right now. But as far as the website redesign, would love to have a little feedback from you on that. Would like to, obviously this will be something we'll have to scope out and then come back to the board. And I'm sure there will be many times that this committee will be able to provide input, but the look and feel of our current website is outdated. It's difficult to navigate.
Yeah.
So
So I guess I would go back to Athena for this, but is there a look that you think is becoming more popular for an organization like ours as far as website design goes? Is there something that I assume that we would be working with TMD on this? Is that
Right,
correct?
yeah, so we do a lot of work for Monterey County's education outreach services, family to family, the health department, things like that. Right. And as far as, kind of examples we could base your guys' website off, I can't think off the top of my head, but I'm always more than willing to share examples with you guys. I can always follow up with Stephanie and we can kind of hammer out these details. But yeah, I think the user navigation's just a really big thing, especially if we're trying to drive more people to the website and get that educational feel. Just that user friendliness is really important.
Thank you. Yeah, that sounds really good.
Well, it's kind of funny because when Monterey One Water redid their website, within your first use, you can't remember what their old website looked like. It's,
The thing.
Yeah, you don't want to remember sometimes.
yeah.
So what's the timeline on this?
that's a good question. I would say we would probably start working on it this fall. And we've got several big things coming up in the next 2 months, especially the transition back into the office that's occurring. So we've got to get through that and get through some of the ordinances that Water Demand Committee has tasked. And So I would say we would probably be starting it sometime this fall and hopefully have it done by, I'm going to guess it's going to take us probably through this fiscal year to actually get that through. So
Okay,
I have a question on
Yeah.
one thing of the content feature. Now, I am not a social media user. I'll tell you that right now. And what would the function of a blog page be that can't be done on Facebook? What's the function? I mean, are we opening ourselves up to some things we don't want to see or hear?
Athena, do you want to respond to that, or is that?
As far as blogs versus Facebook, I know Facebook, right now we do a lot of, your guys' branding ads and a lot of just getting people to the website. And I think a blog, if you guys are really looking to the educational aspect, would be kind of important. Typically blogs on websites, you can or can't accept comments and stuff like that. So that's a big difference between Facebook and the blog. And a blog can always, you guys could repost other articles from other educational sources and stuff. And it kind of protects you guys from the copywriting aspect of it if you credit the people on the actual blog. So
I just wonder whether or not we have the staff bandwidth for a blog, because clearly if we have a blog, we have to continue to monitor it and respond. And that can be a full-time position, quite frankly.
Yeah.
I don't know.
right. And there's always the option of TMD hosting and maintaining the website. So if you guys were to see a blog you guys would like on the website, we are always able to go in and do updates constantly, but that would be, again, an add-on to the proposal, I believe.
Is it more like a question and answer? People ask questions and when we get to them, we can answer them? Or are you just talking about a continuous back and forth function?
I'm more talking about article posting. If you were looking more into the conversational, people being able to ask you guys questions, I believe that's a different type of, I'm not a web designer, but I believe that's a different function that we would be able to include into the website.
We can get you a better answer before the next discussion on this topic.
Yes, we can get you a web designer.
Yeah, am I the only person that just thinks it would be a lot of time that we would be
I
required?
think that's a fear, yes, definitely.
Yeah, I mean, we have a space on our homepage right now where we try to post recent and current information, and some of that is just old and stale. I mean, so we're not even really good about updating.
Yeah, it's definitely a continuous type of thing to have a website function like that. A commitment for sure.
Yep.
I wonder, at least at this point, maybe at another time, but at this point, if we have enough exciting things going on that would prompt activity around a blog.
Or just continuing what we have right now, what Dave was just talking about. Posting stuff that's going on, we can just post it. I make that sound easy. I don't do it, but
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
and we do that, so as possible, but I think this will be, again, we'll have to come back with some kind of a concept on how it would be organized, and that would be some decision that you could make at that point as to whether or not it's just going to be highlights of what's going on at the district, or whether we want to take it further with some other type of more interactive or more regular posting.
Steph, we could grab from, like Aquafornia and BC Water News, just, from time to time, just grab an article of interest type of thing.
Pacific Institute and some of these other places too, yeah.
And we could just assign that, make it somebody's job. Something to think about.
Well, that sounds good. Not being a very bloggy kind of person myself, I don't feel like I have any credibility as far as my discussion about it, other than it just, if we had something really specific that was going on and, and needed to get a public outcry going, I think blogs would be a terrific way of doing that, to ensure that people are motivated to take action or to express their thoughts or comments about some issue that we have that's facing us. at this point, I feel like we're still in a, okay, what's going to be happening next sort of mode. So at any rate, I'm glad that you'll come back with additional information for us, because I don't think that we're of a mind to, make any, strong recommendations at this point.
Are we redesigning the website? Is that in the works at the moment?
Not yet, because it's a budgetary issue that I think we've set aside money for it, right, Stephanie?
Yeah, it's budgeted in this year's budget.
Right. But if we choose to do it, it wouldn't happen until later in the autumn or winter.
Okay.
Do you have any reason to believe, Dave, that that is going to be a problem for us if we do not do anything with our website before then?
No, our current website functions. And even though Stephanie said it's hard to navigate, it's not that hard. And it's just
No, it's harder for the staff to try to keep updating the links and the different, like Joelle, and all of the filing of the documents that are on our website. There's no specific real good organization behind it. Let's put it that way. And there's only, I think, 3 or 4 of us that actually do anything with the website. So I think we would just like to see it reorganized and simplified, and probably made easier for us to deal with, would be the best way I'd put it, but also for the public to be able to find what they're looking for. I think we've got a lot of information in there, and some of it probably doesn't need to be there, and we probably need additional information, like we were just talking about with numbers that would be really interesting to the public to be able to find that really quickly, that kind of thing. So that's kind of what I think would happen with it.
Is there anything that we can do in the interim? As you had said, talking about like the charts and graphs sort of thing, is there any internal updates that we could do that might make that part of it just easier to look at, or easier to, to find, and to, the sort of like the thumbnail sketch of, what we need to know as far as the numbers go? Where do we stand right now on X, on, whatever? Do you feel like it's all or one, Stephanie, when you look at the idea of?
Well, I mean, things are there. It's just, you have to kind of know where to go to find the information.
Yeah.
And I think it just could be organized better, or it could be organized more succinctly. It's there. It's just, it just becomes larger and larger all the time, instead of really maintaining the organization at a higher level.
Right, just
Yeah,
taking a quick look at the website. I definitely agree with Stephanie with the whole, the website's growing and growing. I could see constant new pages and links being added, and I could see us really condensing that and making it a lot easier for, again, user-friendliness.
Yeah, and keep in mind one thing that won't happen. So City of Monterey, I think the county, Monterey One, all use a document software. So like meeting minutes and agendas and so forth, they're all managed through software. We are not heading down that path. And so some of the websites use that portal as your method of picking things up. Ours are just kind of hand loaded by Sarah and Joelle and given a link. And so that's not going to change. So when you go to the committee meetings or the board agendas, we're still going to have some pull down menu, go to the current year, go to the month, and then go to the link, as opposed to, just clicking on public outreach committee and there's your whole list and so forth. It's, the process won't change. So it'll still be cumbersome, a little bit cumbersome.
Well, and quite frankly, another thing that was budgeted this year is, or at least, actually, I think it's been budgeted, and if not, it'll come to you mid-year, is opening up the Excella permitting portal so that we can actually start having the public access their water records or their property records and whatnot, So we're going to be scoping the cost for that and probably bringing that back with mid-year.
Is that something they've been clamoring for?
Actually, it's something that I wish we had thought of before budget this year,
Yeah.
because I didn't realize that it had not been scoped at all, and we don't have a cost estimate. But essentially, what it would allow would be, it would allow us to link in like with the county's Excella program, and where we could share documents back and forth, where right now we are two separate Excella programs, and so we just don't talk to each other. But
Yeah.
this would allow the sharing of files between different things. It would also allow people who want to get a copy of the old inspection report on their property, which is, quite frankly, it's probably 80% of the emails that we get are requests for inspection reports, that you'd be able to log in and find out, go ahead and find that document yourself.
On their own, yeah.
Mhm.
Well, I'm going to shut
Okay.
down
Yeah,
and try to figure out how to get to the LAFCO link. 'Cause
okay.
the link itself isn't working, so I've got to type it in somehow.
Oh, no.
Yeah, good
And I
luck.
think I've gotten feedback, I think sufficient for today as far as going forward and where we need to go. So we'll keep you
Okay.
informed.
Thank you. So the last question I'm just going to ask everyone, is there anything that you would like to suggest to be placed on the next meeting's agenda?
Amy's got her hand up.
Oh, okay, Amy?
You're on mute.
Did you have something you wanted to add to the next agenda?
No, I had a question
All right.
about a part of the TMD. What's the focus of our surveys? Why are we going to do a survey?
Right. So through the strategic planning process, there was some feedback to Dr. Garcia that pointed in the direction of customer experience. So like at the water demand division permit desk. But then when we got into actual discussion, it became more about overall constituent services. And so I think where we're headed is to try to do an overall survey that would tie into both the Measure J process and the provision of services by the district and so forth, rather than just a customer-based experience. I'll be honest, the compliments I receive over the permit desk people are always, it's about 9 to 1. And so whoever indicated that the customer experience in our building wasn't great may have been overstating it. I think that, all the people at the permit desk have pretty cordial relations with the public. And, people mention that all the time. Gabby's great. And it used to be Debbie before she left. Oh, she's great. So I don't think that there's an issue there. But I think we could leverage either SurveyMonkey or Constant Comment or something to do an electronic survey, or we might, I've been thinking about looking into the phone calling just to test the waters on Measure J, or to keep the waters wet, if you will, on Measure J, as we head into the potential hearing from this board on public necessity.
Mhm.
So it's half-baked right now.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. If I do not see any other hands up or any member of the public out there wanting to say anything to us,
Just Chair Edwards out there. Supervisor Adams.
okay, he does not have his hand raised to say anything, so we'll assume that he is happy in silence. And with that, I will adjourn our meeting with the reminder that our next meeting is going to be July 27th at, it says 4 o'clock, and I think we usually meet at 3, but there's probably a reason why it's going to be 4.
Madam Chair, it's actually the 26th.
26th, sorry, July 26th
It is 4 p.m.
at 4 p.m. Okay, great. So put it on your calendars and we can consider ourselves adjourned. Thank you all so much for everything.
Thank
Thank
you.
you so much.
Okay, sorry for the
Thank
rough
you.
start of the meeting.
No
Thank you.
problem.